Good evening, everybody. I am the Historian TV presenter, Dan Snow, and I'm here to welcome you to the first ever National Historic Ships UK Virtual Awards. The ceremony will be starting shortly, coming to you from, where else, HMS Belfast, the iconic 82-year-old warship that actually fired some of the first shots on D-Day and is one of the most significant survivors of the Second World War. She took part in the Arctic convoys and subsequently just supported the Allied forces during the Korean War, which is another big anniversary this year. Please sit back, relax, and prepare to enjoy this celebration of our maritime heritage as I introduce our host for the evening, Director of National Historic Ships UK, Hannah Cunliffe.
Thank you, Dan. Greetings, everyone, and thank you for joining me on this very special occasion. It's a pleasure to be here on HMS Belfast by Tower Bridge to announce the winners of the 2020 National Historic Ships UK Awards. During the event, I'll be joined by members of the HMS Belfast Conservation and Curatorial team to learn a bit more about the ship's history and what is required to maintain her as a visitor attraction. For the second half, I'll be handing over to famous yachtswoman and social campaigner Tracy Edwards in her home studio to reveal this year's photography competition champions. 2020 has been an unusual year for everybody, and whilst this is the 11th time we've held an awards ceremony, it's never been quite like this before. When national lockdown started, we had to make a decision whether to continue with our awards programme this year or not. In the end, it was actually pretty easy to give the go-ahead. With so many historic vessels and maritime projects simply struggling to survive, it was clear that we should be doing everything we could to promote our sector to as wide an audience as possible. We also wanted to encourage a sense of positivity and an opportunity for people to focus on something different while dealing with the challenges of COVID. And our decision has certainly been rewarded, as we received over 450 entries for the photography competition alone, including some international images featuring vessels from the Mediterranean to Costa Rica and as far afield as Bangladesh. We also discovered some amazing stories of achievements and new creative ways of doing things, which I'm proud to be recognising here tonight. So I hope you enjoyed tonight's event, and while you're watching, just take a moment to remember that all the vessels featured are rare survivors of our historic past. Once gone, they can't be recreated, and already existing far beyond their expected lifespan, they need our support and our passion, perhaps now more than ever. Without more ado, I'd like to get started with the first of our awards tonight, Flagship of the Year. For this award, we choose craft from the National Register of Historic Vessels to act as our ambassadors for maritime heritage throughout the year, either at a national or a regional level. Usually, flagships apply for these awards based on their cruising programmes or seasonal visitor numbers, but with so many organisations closed due to COVID, a different approach was needed this year. And vessels were selected instead for the way in which they responded to the pandemic, their commitment to raising their online profiles, or new methods of engaging with the public. And each vessel receives a broad pennant to fly at the masthead, a certificate, and a small grant to help fund their activities. And starting with the regional flagships, I'm pleased to announce our first regional flagship award, which is for Scotland West and goes to the Scottish Maritime Museum and the Victualling Inshore Craft Spartan, located in Irvine, for the Scanning the Horizons project. This project used laser scans and photogrammetry to create a virtual tour, giving online access to the ship, which was supported by online lessons plans and a reminiscence session for use in sheltered accommodation and care homes.
Hello and welcome to the Scottish Maritime Museum. My name's Claire.
My name's Elliot.
And we're the Learning and Access team at the museum. We are delighted to be the National Historic Ships Regional Flagship of the Year for the West of Scotland, with our vessel Spartan behind us.
We've been asked to make this video to discuss all of the activities and workshops we have planned about the Spartan.
Last month we opened our new exhibition, Inside Out, inside the cargo hold of Spartan, and it's able to be viewed by visitors that come along to the museum. However, our learning programme looks very different this year, and most of our activities are online.
So along with this, some of our new workshops include Katie Morag, which centres around island life, in which we detail quite a lot about the Spartan's journey, some of the journeys we're going to take during sea, and we talk to the children about how vital puffers were to island life.
As well as our school programme, Spartan's also going to feature in some reminiscence sessions that we'll be conducting over the winter. We are grateful to National Historic Ships for supporting these activities and look forward to either meeting you in person at the museum or online in the near future.
Our next regional flagship award is for Scotland East and goes to the fishery research vessel SS Explorer, based in Leith, for the creation of online educational activities, including a STEM pack, a navigational maths programme and an engineering workshop kit.
Good evening. It's great to be part of this virtual National Historic Ships Award ceremony. My name is Alan and I represent the regional flagship SS Explorer. This year has been a real struggle for us. Lockdown has delayed so much of the work we wanted to do this year, and in some areas on board have deteriorated further because of this. It has also had an impact on our fundraising, and we've lost our local visibility due to tours and opening days being cancelled. Our biggest success has been our Marine Engineering Challenge at the STEM Scotland Academy. The challenge is in the top 10 of 26 workshops, with over 8,500 workshop sessions run in the first 5 months. There have been requests for partnerships with schools and local authorities to develop the activities further, and the SS Explorer will become a permanent part of the Academy. Thanks to National Historic Ships UK for helping to support the SS Explorer.
The third regional flagship award is for the North and goes to Tall Ship Zebu in Liverpool Docks for the team's work recording oral histories, developing school material and webinars, as well as preparing virtual tours.
The team at National Historic Ships has been right behind us. We've been inspired by everything that they have done, not just for us, but for the other ships. We wouldn't be here today without our amazing volunteers. They've all just fallen in love with Zebu and they've kept coming back, and they've been amazing support, and yeah, without them I don't know where we would be today.
When I was a kid I was obsessed with pirates, but only recently, when I grew up, did I start sailing and discover that you could sail on tall ships, and then I discovered Zebu and that she needed work doing to her, help doing to her, volunteer work, and I thought that's right up my street because I love climbing rigging and doing woodwork and wiring, electronics, so it suits me down to the ground, and I just love being on a wooden ship.
Well, definitely we have achieved a lot in the time that we've been working. It's gone through a lot of stages of uncertainty, but now I'm feeling really great because we've actually got the motor running and we're doing the final little connections so that we can test it and move around, and it's the final little fastening together all the bits and putting the A's through the B's properly and tying it down. It's great. I'm very, very happy. Successfully job done. First tall ship to be electrified. I probably think it's the oldest ship to be electrified at this time in the world.
I hope that we're inspiring others, and I hope that we can go on to work together with National Historic Ships in the near future and beyond.
And the final regional flagship award is for the South East and goes to the paddle steamer Medway Queen at Gillingham for a digital PR campaign which included a new publication about the ship, a virtual tour, as well as taking part in Heritage Open Days online.
The paddle steamer Medway Queen is widely regarded as the heroine of Dunkirk. She was built in 1924 for excursion service on the River Medway and the Thames estuary, but was converted to a minesweeper in World War II. She made 7 trips to the beaches of Dunkirk and rescued thousands of troops. After the war, she steamed on as an excursion ship once more until 1963, when she was retired, ending up as a club on the Isle of Wight. Eventually, she fell into disrepair and was returned to the River Medway. The Medway Queen Preservation Society was formed to save her. She received a grant from the Heritage Lottery Fund to rebuild her hull in Bristol, And here we see her being towed home, passing under Brunel's famous Clifton suspension bridge. She is now based at Gillingham Pier, with a workshop alongside and a dedicated team intent on completing the restoration. Monday the 19th of October was the day when Medway Queen's pennant would be unfurled, and the sunny day started with her National Historic Fleet ensign flying from her stern. Honoured guest was the worshipful the Mayor of Medway, Councillor Habib Tijan, and the unfurling itself was to be carried out by the Society's President, the Right Honourable the Lord West of Spithead, GCB, DSC. The unfurling took place amidst much clapping.
And now I'm delighted to announce the national flagship for 2020, which is none other than the Imperial War Museum with HMS Belfast. And whilst it is of course sad that visitors are not being welcomed on board HMS Belfast at the moment, the Imperial War Museum is using the ship's extended closure period to undertake some much needed conservation work and enhance the visitor experience. And she's due to open again in summer 2021, which will also mark 50 years since she sailed up the River Thames and opened to the public here for the first time. So it's going to be an extra special celebration all round.
My name's John Jordan. I'm a conservation engineer on HMS Belfast, work for the Imperial War Museum. As you can see, this is a 4-inch gun, naval gun. This is known as the splinter shield, which is basically what protected the guys who fired it in live combat. Our biggest enemy is corrosion, obviously. It's been sat in the elements for over 80 years. Whenever I took charge of this, the floors were completely rotten in it. Some of the structural aspects of the gun, like all that angle iron around the base, which actually holds the floor in, most of that was gone as well. Maybe at some stage, if you look around the corner, you can actually see all the rusty bits I've cut out of it, and I'm in the process of fabricating and welding it all back in again. When the conservation's finished, it can be used for firing a blank shotgun cartridge on high days and holidays, Queen's birthdays, etc. There is an adapter plate we use, which goes in the barrel, and it'll take a 10-gauge blank shotgun cartridge, which still uses the original firing mechanism. And it's quite a spectacular event anyway, you know, and people will be queuing along the promenade over there to see such an event. It's an exciting ongoing project that, when it's finished, will be something I'm proud of actually working on. I mean, visitors come from all around the world to see this sort of thing, and I'm so glad that I've actually had the privilege to work doing this sort of work on the gun, you know, and the rest of the ship, obviously.
This is the 10th year that National Historic Ships UK and the Marsh Trust have worked in partnership to give awards to exceptional individuals and groups volunteering on historic vessels. Recipients of the Marsh Awards are always people who make a difference by selflessly contributing their time and energy to causes they believe in. The Trust works with around 40 partner organisations across the heritage, arts, social welfare and environmental conservation sectors to deliver its awards. And in addition to the individual and the team awards we're announcing tonight, the judges were particularly impressed by the efforts of a further volunteer group. And thanks to the generosity of the Marsh Trust, we will also be giving a special commendation to recognise their work. This year's group award has been won by a team of 15 volunteers who've contributed over 3,300 hours of labour in a single year, looking after what is one of the 6 oldest ships in the world. Their dedication saw them working nights and carrying out maintenance that included restoring 2 18-pounder guns, repainting the captain's cabin, netting all 4 decks of the ship, removing rotten timbers and carrying out roof repairs, as well as creating a safe environment in which to open post-lockdown. And I'm pleased to announce that the Marsh Group winner for 2020 is the HMS Unicorn Maintenance Volunteers.
We are all so excited to have received the Marsh Group Award for the Unicorn Maintenance Volunteer Team. As volunteers, we are so proud of the work that we do and what we can offer HMS Unicorn and the Dundee community. It is wonderful to see that this programme is getting some of the recognition it deserves, and thank you so much to National Historic Ships UK for this award. It's really lifted our spirits during this difficult time. We are so pleased to be awarded this certificate, and we can only say thank you.
And the second Marsh Volunteer Award goes to a young individual who has shown both initiative and dedication in the most trying times. Whilst on furlough earlier this year, she sanded and painted the vessel she was living on, and then later, having been made redundant, she offered to make sail and hatch covers, saving the trust which runs the vessel over £3,000 in professional fees. And the Marsh individual winner for 2020 is Charlotte Hole for her work with the sail training vessel Duet.
I'd like to thank the National Historic Ships and the Marsh Christian Trust for selecting me for the Individuals Award. In these difficult times, it was a great morale boost. I was really pleased to spend my time making the new covers for Duet after I was laid off from my job as bosun for Clyde Sailing Trust. The COVID situation prevented Clyde being able to take young people out to sea. As a result, the crew had to be laid off. Duet is a beautiful old boat in excellent condition, but her sail covers were tatty and old and needed replacing. I was happy to keep myself occupied and spend my time making new covers, so I had the skills to be able to do it. Although I think my parents were annoyed that I took up the entire end of the house with the sail material. Thank you again, and I'm really pleased to accept the award.
The judges' special commendation for 2020 goes to the Dartford and Crayford Creek Restoration Trust for their work in partnership with the historic sailing barge Decima, which has resulted in clearing the lock and embankments to regenerate the site and create a pleasant heritage environment once again.
Right, introduce yourself.
It's Conrad Broadley from the Dartford and Crayford Creek Restoration Trust.
And what are we doing here today, Conrad?
Well, it's a celebration. We've been clearing the moorings and the berths, and what we're trying to do is show that it's a usable facility. And we've got the big 85-foot Decima Victorian sailing barge behind us, and we've got 6 narrowboats from the St Pancras Cruising Club. And we've got music, dancing, Morris dancers, and some really good folk singers on the Decima today. So a bit of a celebration.
Away, we're on away, way on away. Hello everyone, my name is Nick Carter and I am a trustee of the Marsh Christian Trust. I am pleased to be able to speak to you today to congratulate this year's winners of the Marsh Volunteer Awards for Historic Vessel Conservation. The Marsh Christian Trust is a grant-making body founded in 1981 by our current chairman, Brian Marsh. Over the past 30 years, we have developed an awards scheme in partnership with organisations across the charity sector to recognise people who make outstanding contributions to people, culture and the natural world. We have been working in partnership with National Historic Ships to run these awards since 2011. And I am pleased to be able to congratulate the winners of this year's awards. They are a great example to the vital contributions that volunteers make to preserving historic vessels, contributions which have become even more important in light of what has been a difficult year for the charity sector. Congratulations to all our winners, and thank you for all you do.
Moving on to our next award, which is the Martin Heighton Award for Excellence in Maritime Conservation. Martin was Director of National Historic Ships UK from 2005 until his passing in 2016, during which time he was a passionate champion for the maritime heritage community, supporting historic vessel projects of all sizes. He was also responsible for the guidance publication Conserving Historic Vessels, which is now a Bible for any historic vessel owner embarking on the difficult journey of funding and planning a sustainable future for their craft. This award is for the vessel project that demonstrates the highest conservation principles. And the lucky winner will also have their name engraved on this special trophy, which, as you can see, has been hand carved around a piece of timber from HMS Victory, Lord Nelson's flagship at the Battle of Trafalgar. And the 2020 Award for Excellence in Maritime Conservation goes to the Scottish Fisheries Museum for the Reaper Restoration Project, which took a three-phase approach to conserving this unique survivor. Based on a detailed conservation management plan, Reaper was returned to operational use, keeping the skills of sailing and maintaining her alive. And the judging team were particularly impressed by the thoroughness of the museum's approach and the focus on significance, which saw the door left open for a potential switch to a full fabric preservation at some point in the future.
Good afternoon from the Scottish Fisheries Museum in Anstruther. My name is Ian Goodyear, I'm Director of Operations at the museum, and I'm here today to accept the Martin Huyton Award for restoration of Reaper. The Reaper project itself has now taken us 2 years so far, and we're just coming to the end of phase 2 and about to start phase 3, which will be the final phase in the new year. Our partners in this project, I would also like to thank. They are the Scottish Government, Babcock International and Adam Way Master Builders. Everyone has put their heart and soul into this project, and we can't wait till she goes back to sea. So thank you very much again for the award, and we're absolutely delighted to receive it.
And now it's time for something a little different. The awards to a group of trainees graduating from a skills training project which National Historic Ships UK has run in partnership with 8 other organisations across the sector over the last 2 years. The Shipshape Heritage Training Partnership Project, supported by the National Lottery Heritage Fund, has hosted 16 training placements for young people aged 18 to 30, focusing on traditional seafaring and museum shipkeeping skills. And 4 of these trainees have just completed their 12-month placements, which included a specialist maintenance course, masterclasses, professional development, as well as time spent with a host vessel organisation. And so it's my pleasure to award Meshalee Payne, Charlie Carman, Hannah Fraser and Timur Kashani with their SHTP2 completion certificates, and wish them all the very best for the future.
Hi, my name is Nisha and I'm one of the museum shipkeeping trainees on the SHTP2 programme. I've been based at the National Museum of the Royal Navy, where I've gone to work on some really interesting and different projects on HMS Warrior and HMS Victory. It's been a great year and I'm so grateful for everything I've learned here.
Hi, I'm Charlie. I'm a museum shipkeeping trainee at the Cutty Sark. The traineeship has inspired me to pursue traditional maritime crafts such as wood carving, something that I've been passionate about for many years but never knew I could pursue as a career.
Hi, my name is Hannah Fraser. I'm the trainee here at the Scottish Fisheries Museum. I would say one of the highlights of my traineeship so far has been working with the historic collections, and one of my favourite tasks has been completing conservation work on the Zulu herring drifter.
Hi there, my name is Timur Kashani. I'm an N8 National Historic Ships SHTP2 trainee. In the winter we went to IBTC in Lowestoft. We were introduced to a wide range of maintenance and boat building techniques. It was a really fantastic experience. I learned a huge amount in my time over there. And then afterwards in the spring I joined Jolly Breeze as my placement. During the extensive refit period I've managed to do loads of woodworking, loads of leather work, and improved greatly on the knowledge that I gained at IBTC. Yeah, overall it's been a fantastic season. Thank you to the team at Jolly Breeze and to the team at National Historic Ships.
Before I hand over to our guest presenter, Tracy Edwards, to announce the winners of this year's photographic competition, I've been offered the chance to do something a bit special. And I hope you'll join me on a tour of HMS Belfast with curator Rob Rumble to get a sneak preview of some of the rooms which are set to be transformed in the coming months. So I've come below on HMS Belfast. I'm here on the Arctic mess deck with the Imperial War Museum curator Rob Rumble. And Rob, can you tell me a bit more about this space? What was it used for?
So this is the Arctic mess deck where the crew of HMS Belfast lived, ate, slept, entertained. This really was the heart of the ship for the ship's company.
Yeah, it's hard to imagine actually, especially in these times of social distancing, it feels quite a confined space.
Yes, it certainly was very busy. With a crew of 950, there wasn't much privacy down below decks. The crew would live by day on these mess benches where they'd eat their meals, share entertainment, or just catch a few moments sleep whilst off duty. And then at night they'd sling their hammocks, as we can see here, to sleep during the darkness. And no privacy whatsoever, you know, only 2 feet apart. And boy seaman Brian Butler described, though, that they were very comfortable, easy to sling yourself into, and at the age of only 16 at the time, he described that you could certainly get a good night's sleep in an old hammock.
And can you tell me a bit more about the Arctic convoys? What was the ship doing, and what would that have been like from a point of view of the work on deck?
Yes, for HMS Belfast, the period of November 1942 to April 1944 was one of her busiest periods of service during the Second World War. At the time, the Soviet Union was at war with Nazi Germany, and the Western Allies, Great Britain and the United States of America, had pledged to support the Soviets with war material, so tanks, ammunition, fuel, any equipment to help defeat Germany. So Belfast and the Royal Navy would escort merchant ships full of supplies from British waters all the way up through the Arctic Ocean to Archangel and Murmansk. Often during the winter months when it was pitch black, in freezing conditions, towering seas, 30 feet waves, and the ever-present threats of German U-boats, aircraft, mines, a really dangerous and hazardous journey for the crew.
Gosh, it sounds amazing, really, life on the edge, wasn't it?
It certainly was. The crew would, when on duty on deck, could only keep warm in sheepskin coats or warm mugs of cocoa, and the home comforts of even a crowded mess deck like this were most welcome when they were off duty. In fact, Winston Churchill himself later described the Arctic convoys as the worst journey in the world.
Yeah, I can well imagine why they were glad to get down to this space.
Yes, it was a certain, even the smallest home comforts were very welcome to the crew.
Yeah, absolutely. And what are your plans for the Arctic mess deck going forward? Is this an area that you're looking to transform a bit while the ship's closed?
Yes, we certainly are. We hope to bring to life the conflicts that HMS Belfast was involved with throughout the Second World War and the Cold War. So visitors will be able to experience the voices of the crew, the sights and sounds of life in the Arctic mess decks, and film footage and photographs from IWM's archive collection to really bring to life what it would have been like sailing those dark and hazardous waters.
So we've moved now to the sick bay on board HMS Belfast, which feels to me like a bit of a cheerless space. And Rob, can you tell me what would have this been used for, and as a young sailor, what might I have come in here?
Well, being a larger ship, Belfast was equipped with a full sick bay and a full medical complement, so a surgeon commander, a surgeon lieutenant, and 6 medical orderlies. And this space was fully equipped to look after all elements of the crew's healthcare, through to various conditions, tropical diseases, or injuries. And of course the sick bay was primarily equipped for conflict, so treating injuries in a war zone.
Yeah, that's really impressive. It sounds like they could do almost anything in here. And how often would the sick bay have been used? Were there many casualties on board the ship?
Yes, the sick bay was equipped with an operating theatre as well as these cots as well. So any operation from burst appendix to trauma injuries could have been operated on in here, and it was used heavily certainly during the Normandy campaign, during D-Day in the Second World War, and used very heavily during the Korean War from 1950 to 1953.
And Rob, can you tell me a bit more about HMS Belfast's role in the Korean War?
Well, Belfast was out in Korea in 1950 as part of the Royal Navy's Far East Pacific Fleet. And when North Korea invaded the South on the 28th of June 1950, Belfast was on hand to support the United Nations resolution to liberate South Korea from the communist invaders. So Belfast was sent to the Korean theatre and was used, and her 6-inch guns were used to support ground-based operations along the Korean peninsula. One of the stories we want to tell in the sick bay is the story of Surgeon Lieutenant Robert Tony Rowan, who was here throughout the Korean War and in particular was mentioned in dispatches for his sterling work during the Battle of Changni-do in July 1952. Changni-do was a small island invaded by the North Koreans, and US and South Korean and Royal Navy forces went in to help liberate the island. The fighting was very bloody indeed, and all casualties were brought into HMS Belfast sickbay for treatment. South Korean soldiers as well as South Korean civilians, women and children. And Tony Rowan worked heroically throughout a 24-hour period, carrying out 16 life-saving operations. The casualties were so numerous that as soon as these cots ran out, they were just laid in stretchers on the floor and out in the corridor along the ship, and the crew described how thick the blood was on the decks. So a really serious and bloody experience.
So we're now in the provisions issue room on the ship, which feels like the right place to be. Rob, can you tell me what sort of provisions would have been issued from here?
Well, the provision issue room was for one purpose only, and that was for the issue of the sailor's rum. And this was a tradition dating back to the age of sail in the 18th century, whereby the ship's crew, anyone below officer rank, would be entitled to their tot of rum at 11 a.m. every morning. And for many crew, it was the highlight of their day.
What an absolutely wonderful tradition. And I can't imagine what it would have been like to be that young sailor collecting his first tot of rum.
Yes, there was a lot of tradition that went with the rum issue. So each mess would provide a rum bosun in turn, a member of the crew to come and collect the rum. The rum would be measured out here in the provision issue room with an officer and Royal Marine on hand. Again, all part of the tradition of the rum issue. And then they would take the rum back to their mess decks and would be entitled to sippers for their trouble, whereby the rum bosun could take a small sip out of all of his messmates' rum issue. Now, if it was a sailor's birthday, they'd be entitled to what was known as gulpers, whereby they could take a larger gulp of rum from all of their messmates' rum issue. Finally, if you were owed a particular favour by a messmate, you could take downers, which was drinking the entire rum issue, but that was strictly illegal and could get you into a lot of trouble. Now, one of the young sailors who we'd like to feature on HMS Belfast is Kennedy Buster Brown, who celebrated his 18th birthday while serving in HMS Belfast in 1960. And he describes how he enjoyed his first ever rum tot on his birthday. His messmates encouraged him to take sippers and then gulpers from all of their issues, and then in unison encouraged him to down the hatch. And he described, remember, he's only an 18-year-old lad, and this was his first ever experience of alcohol. He said, gosh, what a feeling, and definitely needed a sit down afterwards and was feeling rather unwell. And thankfully his chief petty officer was understanding and actually let him sleep it off for the next couple of hours.
And that's another brilliant story. It was obviously quite a serious business having that first induction to life on board ship.
Well, it certainly made young sailors like Kennedy Brown, it was considered a rite of passage. It was, becoming a man in the Navy rather than a boy. So certainly a cherished tradition. And the rum issue continued until 1970 when the tradition finally ended.
And now the highlight of the night. It's time for the Photography Competition Awards. And for the second half of tonight's ceremony, I'm pleased to welcome Tracy Edwards to announce this year's winners.
Thank you, Hannah, and good evening to everyone. I'm delighted to be joining you for this part of the ceremony. As a round-the-world sailor, I have a close relationship with the sea, and it's great to see maritime heritage taking centre stage tonight through such a wide range of activities, images, and vessel types. The first category I will be announcing is the People's Choice, always popular and closely contested this year on Instagram. This award has run across the summer with voting each week to narrow down a winner. After the final votes, the winning image, as chosen by the public, was the Channel Rose outside Derek Jarman's Prospect Cottage on Dungeness Beach by David Stern.
Thank you, National Historic Ships UK, for awarding me the People's Choice Prize in this year's annual photographic competition. It's always nice to win a competition, particularly if it's being judged by a panel of learned judges. But when it's being judged by the public at large, then I think it rises to a significantly higher level still. 2020 has been a particularly bad year for us all, with lots of spectacular lows. So winning this award will remain for me a significant high point of the year. So thank you very much, National Historic Ships, for this wonderful award. Thank you to my family and friends for their unfailing love and support. And thank you to the public at large, those folks who saw my photograph and saw something in it that they liked that made them want to vote. Thank you very, very much.
Next we have the Classic Boat Award, kindly sponsored by Classic Boat magazine, who've been partners with this competition right from the beginning. Shortlisted by the art editor, this award seeks images which showcase the finest examples of traditional craft and most closely fit the ethos of the magazine. This year, the highly commended Classic Boat Award goes to Sandy Miller for his image Norfolk Dinghies. And the winner of the Classic Boat Award 2020, the judging panel and magazine editor's choice go to Colm O'Leary for his image piece CK171.
Hi, my name is Colm O'Leary. I'd just like to say I'm honoured to have had my picture of the SMAC piece selected as the Classic Boat winner in the 2020 photo contest. And I'd just like to say thank you to everybody at National Historic Ships and at Classic Boat.
Colm O'Leary's picture of the SMAC piece, goose swinging her way down an East Coast river, is a great example of the new perspectives that drone photography can give us. We also love the composition of vessel, water and land, and you can even see some of the spectators on the shore taking pictures, but they won't see what Colm's eye in the sky can see. I'm delighted to announce Colm as the winner of this year's Classic Boat category in the National Historic Ships Photography Competition.
For the first time, the competition has been focused on the National Historic Ships annual calendar, with the theme of maritime heritage through the seasons, and entrants asked to submit a photograph that they feel best represents a certain time of the year. There have been some great entries typifying the first crisp sail of early spring, vessels being worked in the heat of summer, the brilliant colours of autumns, and ships covered in snow during the winter months. The judges faced some tough choices, but they have selected the following 12 images, which will be included in the 2021 National Historic Ships UK calendar. Winter Dream, Light Vessel 21 by Fraser Gray. Low Tide, Chittagong, Bangladesh by Eric Lynn. Mariah, Enjoying an Early Spring Sail by Peter Pangborn. Standart, Leaving the Pirate Bay of Gozo by Paul Lentz. The Sally and Cumbria, May Dawn by Sandy Miller. Norfolk Dinghies in the Evening Sun by Sandy Miller. 5 Historic Boats Led by Governor by Kev Maslin. Castaway, Abandoned on Dungeness Beach by David Stern. Sculptor at Work in Blisworth Tunnel after 36 years of retirement by Catherine Doddington. Thames Barge by Ricky Irwin. Rotten Row, Felix and Friends Abandoned in the Medway Mud by David Stern. Tugs at Night at Chatham by Jason Arthur. One image from all 450 entries has been chosen as the overall winner. The judges' favourite, which will be published on the front cover of the calendar, as well as scooping tonight's top prize, £250 worth of Virgin Experience vouchers and a beautiful hand-carved glass bowl. The final place was closely fought, and the judges particularly wanted to commend the runner-up, which has been awarded a very well-deserved second place. The highly commended award for 2020 goes to Sandy Miller for The Sally and Cambria, May Dawn. And now it's the moment you've all been waiting for, the National Historic Ships UK Photographer of the Year 2020. This is an unforgettable standout images with striking colours and a fabulous contrast of old and new that leaps off the page. I'm delighted to announce that the overall winner of tonight's photographic awards is Daniel Jones with his entry Riverside Museum Glasgow and the tall ship Glen Lee.
It's always a delightful task judging the wonderful images in this competition. This year was a particular joy as the winning image rather crept up on the judges. The more we looked at it, the more we talked about it, the more we realised it represented a fresh and interesting look at a historic ship. We also felt that most people's experience of going on board a historic ship was when it was moored alongside, so it had a popular relevance too. It was a very unusual modern setting. The composition had striking lines, and in this rather grim year, the vibrance of the colours finally clinched it as the overall winner.
Hello, my name is Daniel Jones and my photograph of the Riverside Museum and tall ship Glen Lee that you can see beside me here has been chosen as the winner of National Historic Ships UK's 2020 photography competition. It's one of my favourite photographs I've taken in one of my favourite locations in Glasgow, and it speaks to my love of long exposure photography. I'd like to say thank you to the judges and National Historic Ships UK for choosing my photograph as the winner of this year's competition among some absolutely tremendous entries. I'd also like to say thank you to my family and my fiancée who have always supported my photography. I hope you all have a wonderful evening, and congratulations to all of the winners. Thank you.
Well, what a wonderful selection of images we've seen tonight. I'd like to say a huge thank you to the judging panel and congratulations again to all the winners, especially Daniel Jones for that brilliant photograph of the tall ship Glenlee at night. And now for a final goodbye, I'm going to hand you back to Hannah on board HMS Belfast. Good night.
Thank you, Tracy. Some memorable images there. And it's been a real pleasure to give out such a wide range of awards, recognising the breadth of achievements across the whole of our sector and the feeling of well-being that maritime heritage can bring. And I'd like to thank the people and organisations who've made these virtual awards possible. First and foremost, the Imperial War Museum for kindly offering HMS Belfast as the venue tonight, Beckett Rankin as our event sponsor, and Tracy Edwards and Dan Snow, our guest presenters. And there have been so many people involved in putting together this ceremony, it's difficult to mention them all. But I must give thanks to our judges, the sponsors of the individual awards, our media partner, Classic Boat, the Marsh Christian Trust, Ash Event Productions, my small but incredibly hard-working team, and of course our core funders, the Department of Digital, Culture, Media and Sport. And finally, thank you to you, our audience, for watching tonight and joining me here on HMS Belfast. I hope you've enjoyed the evening, and I look forward with anticipation to next year's awards, when we'll be shining the spotlight on historic vessels once again.
Hello again, everybody. That, I'm afraid, brings us to the end of tonight's event. I'd like to give a huge big thank you to our hosts tonight, Hannah and Tracy, as well as the whole team at National Historic Ships UK for putting together such a magnificent show under difficult circumstances. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. If it's left you wanting more, stay online now to see the shortlisted images from the photographic competition, or move over to social media using the hashtag NatHistShipsAwards2020 to join the chat and send your congratulations to the winners. Thanks again for watching, everybody. Have a great night.